Greetings and welcome to Let's Talk About Books, baby, where we meet with your favorite LGBTQ plus authors. I'm Anita Kelly, and my guest today is Robbie Samuels. Hello, Robbie.
Hey there.
How are you?
I'm great. I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah, I am so glad to have you here and to talk with you. We were connected through an former colleague of mine. I don't think that Elaine would appreciate me saying old, but I'm so glad that she did.
Agreed.
Yeah. So Robbie, you recently published a how-to book called Launch Your Book. Can you tell us about this?
It's a very meta topic. It's my fourth book. I became known amongst speakers and authors for my launch process. All three of my first books have over 200 Amazon reviews. My third book hit over 250 written Amazon reviews. So I became sort of known for that, and people wanted to know more and more about it. And so a year and a half ago or so, I started to investigate adding a new revenue stream to my business. I'm a multi-passionate entrepreneur. There's a lot of things that I'm known for doing. And so I published Launch Your Book, an entrepreneur's guide to reviews that drive revenue. And the goal is to teach business owners who are writing a book to help them grow their business, speaking, coaching, or consulting, how to leverage their network to not just get 50 or more Amazon reviews, but to create a pipeline from that book to a business offer. And it's been going really well. It came out just about a month or so ago. And in the first 2-week soft launch, it received 200 Amazon reviews. It's now at 236. And it hit number 1 in 7 categories, sold over 500 copies in the first 4 weeks. So a lot of work, worth it. Led to some new clients signing up, which is also like the ultimate goal. Money in the bank account means you're doing good work in the world. So yeah, it was kind of there's a lot of pressure in a way because it's a book about book launches. So I had to make sure it had a good book launch, which I feel like it did.
Sounds like it did. That's amazing. 200 and some in, that short amount of time is pretty much unheard of unless you're like, a well-known, mystery writer or something, right? That is just
for folks like us who are just out there doing good work, not household names. Yeah. To achieve that, I built a launch team of likely prospects and referral partners, people I thought would directly benefit from the book or would know people who would benefit, and nurtured them through a series of emails and follow-ups, all personalized to them. And I collected 200 reviews from about 450 people before the book was published. And then in that first 2 weeks, those 200 reviews did get put on to Amazon, and more reviews came in, and more people signed up for the launch team. So 236 reviews from about 465 people. And, I've given them a break. Let's send them a lot of email in a short amount of time. And this fall, I will I'll reach back out to people who didn't follow up. But, the idea is to get people to actually read our books, because unfortunately, even when people buy books, they don't necessarily open them. And so a lot of thought goes into how to help people create some urgency about opening it and seeing how it might apply to their life.
Yeah. So who would be a good candidate to read this book and really learn and grow from it as a professional?
So I'm a book launch strategist, among other titles. And when I schedule a complimentary 30-minute book launch brainstorming session, it's with people who are thinking about writing a book, people who have already published a book, and anyone sort of along that author journey. And so I think the people who will most directly benefit are people who probably already started the writing process and have not yet published their book, but want to start thinking about how to make sure this book has success beyond vanity metrics. So hitting number 1 bestseller is a vanity metric. It's a nice to have, but it is not going to change the outcome of the success of a book. as far as people thinking, you've increased credibility. The social proof of having reviews is what I focus on because they are there forever, and the orange ribbon for bestseller status is there and gone in sometimes as little as an hour. It's just not a long-term outcome. Yeah. So even people who already have a book that they've published would benefit because I have a section on relaunches. And so I have thoughts about that. And relaunches can take a lot of different shapes. So I just wrote about one in particular in this book, but it's really about leveraging your existing network. I have a process for how to identify likely prospects and referral partners, and then just sort of nurturing them through a sequence of messaging so that they don't get a reminder email, if they take the next step. And ultimately, I would say anyone writing a book to help them grow their business, speaking, coaching, consulting, should aim for a minimum of 20 written reviews. But with my process, when people hire me, we're really aiming for 50 or more because, it separates you from most people who don't even bother to get 20 reviews. If you have 55 reviews and you want to get booked to speak, and someone else wrote a book on your topic, but they have 8 reviews, it might help tilt the scale in your favor.
Absolutely, it does. I mean, that's when I am looking at purchasing a book. That's one of the things I look at. I look at the reviews. I look at how many reviews they have. And I always look at a certain number. Like I have a threshold, and if they aren't above, this number stars, then forget it. So
yeah, there's sort of 2 reasons to think about reviews. One is the human side, which is what you're speaking to. There have been studies that I referenced in the book. More than 90% of buyers check reviews before making a purchase. So most of us do that, but very, very few of us routinely write reviews for anything, not just books, but for anything we buy. Very rare.
Yeah. And
so what that means is a small number of people will have an outsized influence on everyone else's buying habits.
Gotcha.
So if we can inspire just a few more people to write a review, that could have a real impact on everyone else considering the book. But then there's the algorithm or AI computer side of the equation, which is that your book being listed on the search results page based on certain keywords, where it's listed is based on the quantity reviews, quality reviews, recency reviews, and percentage of verified reviews, meaning someone bought the book from Amazon before leaving the review. And so Amazon has that information and will make your book more or less easy to discover. And so there are people who've written a book, if they type in their book's title, it doesn't show up in the search results page on page 1 because there are too many other competing books.
Yes.
And that's a problem.
Yeah, it is.
You tell people to go buy your book and they literally can't find your book.
Yeah.
So trying to get above others in your category. So I'm aiming for 1,000 reviews by the end of the year, which is a real long shot, but I believe I need to set up a long shot in order to push because there's someone's book that buyers will be comparing my book to that has 911 reviews. So I wanna keep pushing because he doesn't have very many recent reviews because he stopped pushing for reviews. So I feel like even if I didn't get all the reviews that he has, I will be ranked higher because I have more recent ones. So, that's kind of a long-term plan for how to make sure my book gets discovered.
So you actually have someone who you are looking at who has achieved 900 and some reviews, and you basically want to beat him and acquire 1,000, and that's what really is that what propels you?
Yeah, I mean that's to me, it's a strong launch. All the stats that I read to you earlier, said to you earlier are great, but there's often a lot of buzz when a book first comes out, but how do we sustain that? Yeah. So 3 times a year I organize a Kindle flash sale, and that's where a bunch of authors who write, all books for a business purpose, not necessarily business books, but books for speakers, coaches, consultants. We all lower our Kindle book price to 99 cents and we cross promote. And so leading up to the next one, which is beginning of December 2025, it happens again 3 times a year, I, about a month and a half beforehand, will sort of reach out to the people on my list and say, hey, if you can get this done between now and this next campaign, it will help, right? Just giving people another reason to do it. So, I mean, I should be able to get to 500 by the end of the year. That would be great. And then I just got to keep going. And I got to keep pushing for those reviews so that you always have recent reviews coming in. So for scaling this bound to other people, like I feel like I'm trying to do something that's kind of superhuman. If people who have a book even got 5 new reviews every 3 months, they would be doing a better job than 99% of the people who have a book on Amazon.
How about that? That doesn't seem like a lot.
It's an incredible amount of effort because it's just not something we habitually do. So the process I have as a book launch strategist is set up to help people do that. And, 50% of my launch team did, which is awesome. Usually it's about a third. But this is a funny thing, Anita. People who chose to be on my launch team have a real interest in book launch strategy. My entire launch was a masterclass. And still, there are 50% of them, over 200 people, who have not written a review.
Wow.
So that tells you how hard it is because it's a very specific topic. They may or may not have an urgency around it. That's the thing I can't control for. So, but if you could get 5 new reviews every few months, your book will continue to do pretty well, I think, on the search results page.
Wow. That is information I've never heard anyone share before. That's great. Really?
I have dug deep into this, particularly writing a book. You take a lot of information you think you know, and you start to try to find data points. And that's always really fascinating. You're like, I keep hearing this. Can I find a source for it?
Yeah.
So
your book, Launch Your Book, is also like a course that you teach?
Yeah, so I have an online program that's part of a coaching package. And so I do one-on-one coaching where I work with the entrepreneur and their team. There is an opportunity to also hire me and my team to implement the series of emails and manage all the spreadsheets. And I separately offer a package where I design and MC a virtual book launch party. And the goal of the launch party is to acknowledge the effort of the book launch itself, but it's really about what comes next. So this is where I'm working with people who wrote a book tied to some other service. And part of what I'm doing as a coach is I'm helping them develop that offer or refine an offer they already have to make it fit with further reader. And who we want to work with, after the book has to be tied to who we invite to be on the launch team. So most authors err on the side of inviting friends and family to be on their launch team. And I will tell you, the hardest review you will ever get is from friends and family. Sure. They love us. They don't understand what we do. They don't write books. They don't understand the importance of reviews. They don't need the content we're writing about. They don't really know anyone who needs the content. So they might do it after a lot of, arm twisting. But all that effort doesn't build a pipeline between the book and the business. Whereas if you are handpicking people who are prospects and referral partners to be on your launch team, even if they don't write a review, you're still in conversation and you end up invited to be on podcasts like this, or someone invites you to come speak for a membership group, or someone wants to do a book club discussion with you. So having that end in mind is really an important part of the whole strategy.
Brings about more networking, right?
Yeah, it's all networking. So I'm a networking expert. I am a virtual event design consultant and an executive Zoom producer, so I get to pull that piece of it in. I'm a business strategist, so I get to pull that piece of it in. And all these things sort of slowly happened in my business as needed, and now suddenly they're all pieces that make me uniquely qualified to do the work that I do with authors.
So I want to back up 1 minute and ask you, is your background in marketing?
Mm-mm. No, it isn't.
Okay.
My background's actually organizing fundraising events and doing major gift work. So I'm
Ah.
used to doing a lot with a very small budget.
Okay, like in
uh,
like development kind of stuff.
yeah,
Okay.
development. And I also organized meetup groups. I used to run these progressive community groups called Socializing for Justice, So Just for short, and in Boston, Massachusetts.
Okay.
And we ran like 2 events a month for 11 years, and that was completely voluntary and fun. And so a lot of the marketing I think that I figured out was from doing these events and trying to figure out how to get our messaging out there. And then when I a little over a decade ago went into entrepreneurship full time, I continued to learn and grow. I mean, a lot of what I had to learn was because when I started my business, I didn't have money. I didn't have a budget for like hiring lots of people. So I had to figure it out and be scrappy. And so now I can get in the weeds to figure something out, but I'm also really love thinking of the big picture and making sure anything we're doing is, tied to the end goal that we're aiming for.
Yeah, need is a great motivator, right?
It really is. I mean, I publish my own books, like self-published, because the first time around I had like $500 for my budget, and the amount of money I've spent for my books has gone up quite a bit, but it's because I'm choosing higher quality service providers to work with. And one of the things I ended up doing as part of this new revenue stream is I talked to a lot of people who were in the world of publishing and was trying to figure out whether there was a referral network that I could join. And I was also trying to validate whether my approach to book launch strategy was unique. And those calls led to January of 24, people saying like, okay, how do I sign up? So I started developing Biz Book Pub Hub last year, and now that's a great community. It was a lot of resources for authors as well as for the experts who support these entrepreneurial authors. So it's been amazing because I have these different communities that I get to be part of and support.
Tell us more about Biz Book Pub Hub.
So, if you're a writer or an author and you've kind of been doing this in isolation, sometimes we are easy prey for people who hear about the fact that we're thinking of writing a book. And I don't know about you, but I get pitched even now. Hey, you sound like someone who knows a lot. Do you want to write a book? I'm like, are you what? Like, like LinkedIn, emails, all that good stuff. So if you want a reputable place, a marketplace to find resources to help you wherever you are in your author journey, writing, editing, publishing, launching, or marketing, I have gathered a curated list of experts who can help entrepreneurs, who specifically understand that you're trying to write a book related to a business. And some of them do a little bit of a soup to nuts, and they can include, writing and publishing, and some of them just do the writing, some do the editing, some do, the design, some do help getting you speaking gigs or website design or getting a podcast launched, etc. So it's kind of full range of services. And I have, met and gotten to know all these people, which has been wonderful. And I also host a free virtual networking event every single month. One month it will be focused on speakers who are either professional speakers or aspiring to be professional speakers. And I do that because I invite them the following month to the event that's for writers and authors, because speakers tend to want to write books. And the writers and authors event is where the experts from the hub, our hub partners, get to meet these authors and writers. And we do a series of breakout rooms, again, leaning into my skill set around virtual event design and executive Zoom producing. And, this is very downstream from the services that I sell, because people need to have a book before I could be paid as a launch strategist. But, planting a lot of seeds, hoping for good weather, building a community.
Right.
And then I also have a podcast called Biz Book Pub Hub. And a couple times a week, we have either an author panel discussing the ROI of publishing a book and their author journey. And we have interviews with our hub partners, these experts. We also do one-on-one interviews with, I do one-on-one interviews with a handful of authors who've had real success and we can learn from. And so a ton of content from that. And then the Kindle flash sale that I mentioned is all wrapped up in that as well. So again, part of a author supporting author. So everything's at bizbookpubhub.com if you want to check all that out.
All right, great.
And, most of it's free. Come hang out with us, just get to know what we do and pay for the services that you need.
And do you work primarily, or is this primarily kind of focused on folks who are writing more professional books, or is it for anyone who's writing any kind of novel, like mystery, romance, anything?
So the name is Biz Book Pub Hub was meant to convey that it's tied to a business, not necessarily a business quote unquote book, but it could be, let me see. It's not memoir, but it could be narrative nonfiction, which is where you take a few different people's lived experience and you create like takeaways and action steps. It could be a how-to, like the books that I write. It could be self-help. It could be a business book about leadership. It's kind of range. It's not fiction. We don't do fiction. These experts can absolutely help you. Some of them do work with fiction authors or poetry or whatever it might be. But my focus is that there really wasn't a space for us. The same way there are some, like I'm part of the Professional Speakers Association. I'm part of the National Speakers Association. And there wasn't that kind of space for writers who were writing these kinds of books.
Yeah.
And so it's a little more broad than the word business book, but it is still anyone who's got a business speaking, coaching, consulting, and who's writing a book to help that business grow.
Gotcha. So a couple times now you have mentioned that you are a Zoom producer. So, Robbie, what is a Zoom producer? What does that entail?
Back in 2020, I didn't know what that was either. I never heard of that. So before the pandemic, I had spent over a decade teaching people how to network at conferences and events, and I focused my first book on that topic. I did a talk that I literally did for like 10 or 11 years. And I got an opportunity to write about that topic for Harvard Business Review, and I got to do a TEDx talk in 2019, which was published on YouTube in January of 2020. And I was poised to be an overnight success, 10 years in the making. And 2 months later, no one needed to know how to network at events because we were all at home.
Yes.
It was a little bit of a womp womp.
Yeah.
I had to show up and offer value in a new way, and I had to figure that out. So at that moment, my understanding of virtual events was the word webinar. And I had a kind of like, reaction.
Yeah.
Because like webinars were not great.
Yeah.
They're still not great.
No.
And I thought, well, I put all this effort into helping people create not just content, but connection at events. How do I do that online? And I hosted my first virtual happy hour on March 13th, 2020, which was the week that everything shut down. And very quickly became, within a month, like someone who knew something about Zoom. Wow. And was like, first a couple of pages ahead, and then a chapter ahead, and then a few chapters ahead of everyone else. And then I finally wrote a book on it, right? So I got hired by the end of the year. I was being hired by companies, by organizations, nonprofits, and associations to bring their events online with less stress and greater participant engagement.
Yeah.
And I also had created a certification program that I ran in 2020 and for another 2 years. So the goal is to design inclusive and engaging, transformative online experiences where the technology enhances the conversation. It's not a hindrance. Oh, yeah. So what that looks like will change depending on the outcome you're aiming for. It's all based on strategy, purpose-first design, understanding how to do online facilitation, understanding the platform you're using and the limitations of that platform. But to say that in person is the only way to do it is sort of like saying, okay, we're gonna use hockey rules and apply them to soccer, and then be like, oh, soccer's not good at all. on the surface they both have like a field and goals, but like everything is different. Yes. So we just have to understand the rules of the game we're playing and then do our best to exceed expectations. And so when I'm hired, my job is to create these great experiences. I don't just handle the tech. I am an odd duck who handles the tech and MCs as needed, whether that's I'm mostly behind the scenes until something goes wrong and then I unmute to keep things moving. But I want to help speakers do their best at being seen and being heard. I want to help authors do their best at being seen and being heard. If you're going to a conference, I want to help you be seen and be heard. So that's kind of a through line of all the work that I do. If you're launching a new offer, I want your network to have you be seen and be heard. So that's kind of the through line of the work that I do. It just the modality and medium changes.
Yeah. Wow. That is, it sounds like you are a very resilient individual, and you and you pivot well to meet the ongoing needs of the public. So that's fantastic. There weren't on March 13th of 2020, there weren't a lot of people who were adept at using Zoom. Just
including me. I thought that I'd never checked the settings. I'd used it for these kinds of calls, like recording a podcast. I had done small groups, but I thought that breakout rooms were an additional expense, and I couldn't think of a reason that I would want to pay for it.
Okay.
Like I was like, I'm not even going to look into it. That's how I felt. A week later, March 20th, I hosted an event that had breakout rooms. Early on, I will give away a secret. It's not really a secret. I've talked about this, but early on, this first month or so, I hosted an event weekly for 2 years. I still host an event every Friday as part of the community group that I run, the membership group that I run. But I hosted this event every Friday for 2 years. It was free, called No More Bad Zoom. And people would come and they'd pose their questions in chat. And then I'd send them to a breakout room for 10 minutes to talk to each other. And while they were in that room for 10 minutes, I would look up their questions. And I would look on Google, on YouTube, and Zoom.com. And I would copy and paste a bunch of links into a little document, and when the people came back in the room, I would say, okay, here's a question. Let me give you like a overview of an answer, but if you want to dig deeper, here are the links. And people thought I was brilliant. Like, yeah. When I say I was a page ahead, I was a page ahead. And eventually, I knew how to answer all the questions because like 99 out of 100 questions I'd been asked before.
Yeah.
And, that really became an expertise. But yeah, early on, it was just like it was deflection. It was like, look over here or misdirection, like a magician. Yeah. Look over here while I do this other thing.
Yeah.
But that's how I learned, was based on what people needed, and that really was part of the research calls in a way that I got to test an idea of what people needed. So April 14th, I announced the pilot of a 4-week program to become more confident and competent using Zoom. And I ran that 4 months in a row. By the third month, it became a certification program. And so, nice. I mean, resilience is part of it. It's like testing and trying and seeing what happens. And plenty of things didn't work, but plenty of things did, right? And I worked my butt off. I worked every day from April to November 2020, except for Father's Day and U.S. Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So just worked.
Wow. And, what was that old platform that everyone used before Zoom? With an S. I just blanked on it myself. Yeah, I can't even
the reason I stopped using the other platform was because people had to have their login.
Yeah.
And it was Microsoft related or something.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
People would lose their login.
Yes.
And they would, I'd go to host a podcast and the guests wouldn't show up for like 20 minutes because they couldn't find their login.
I know. I had the same thing going on. Yeah.
That was when I finally was like, oh, what's the Zoom thing? Oh, you don't need a login? So I switched to Zoom years before the pandemic because I didn't have to worry about how people got in.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I use Zoom every day, practically all day. And it's still, I'm miffed by folks who all I see is their forehead or,
Well, my third book, Anita, is a book called Break Out of Boredom, Low-Tech Solutions for Highly Engaging Zoom Events. It's a resource guide for everything I learned in the first 3 years of using Zoom. And so you can reference it as needed. You don't have to read it cover to cover.
Yeah.
And you can, everything that I'm mentioning, by the way, is at robbiesamuels.com. I know there's a lot of things that I do, but that's where everything is housed.
Okay.
But yeah, you definitely check that out. I have a ton of free resources, bonus content that goes with that, meeting guides, checklists, video tutorials. I'm like you. I want people to get better at this.
Yeah. Nice. And listeners, if you missed that, it was RobbieSamuels.com. You can get a list of all of these things that Robbie's talking about right now. Everything he's referencing, you can find on his website. So check it out. Robbie, I wanted to ask you specifically, what has been your experience, or have you had any experience in navigating the LGBTQ plus publishing world? And has there been a difference between LGBTQ plus publishing and mainstream publishing? What are your thoughts on that?
So, when I was thinking about this question, I'll mention the book related part, but I also want to talk about being a professional speaker because I think I have some thoughts on that. Okay. So I don't publish books. I refer people. That's why I built the Biz Book Pub Hub, so I can refer to people who will help you make that happen. And Jen T. Grace from Publish Your Purpose, she's amazing, and she specifically focuses on LGBTQ plus authors. And it's wonderful because she has a whole community of authors who have that shared lived experience and can support each other. And so I love that she's created that space, and that's evolved over time. And it's a great resource. She's a great person. So shout out to her, because if you are LGBTQ plus and you're thinking about writing a book, just go to publishyourpurpose.com to learn more about what she's doing. She's smart and savvy and just excellent. She used to be known as the professional lesbian. So you can tell that this was literally her life's work. And I've been part of the National Speakers Association for over a decade, and they're a 50-year-old organization that was founded by evangelical Christian white men for the most part. Because think about who were the orators, right? Who were the preachers of that time, and
doesn't sound good.
It's a very diverse association 50 years later. But there's been a lot of effort to make that a welcoming and inclusive space. And I've been running for a while now, probably like 8 years, the Rainbow Speakers community group through the National Speakers Association, which is open to LGBTQ speakers and our allies. And we have a couple of annual events, but one of them is really big, like 800 people. We just happen to have it a month or so from this recording. Okay. And I started hosting back in 2018, before the pandemic, an ice cream social at this conference. And it's evolved, and now it's the You Belong Ice Cream Social. And the organizers are the Rainbow Speakers Group and the Accessible NSA Group, which is for people of differing abilities. And when we're there at the conference, we give out rainbow string bracelets, like little friendship bracelets. Yeah. I wear mine year round. I put on a new one every July. And we also give out rainbow lapel pins to staff and to all the other people at the conference. It's a wide-ranging membership. There are Trumpers there. But I wanted to make the space as safe as possible for me as an out trans guy and for other LGBTQ plus people. So we give these visible rainbow, items out, and all the time people say, but can I wear one? Because, I'm just an ally. And I'm like, there is no just about being an ally, particularly right now. Yeah. And in the next sentence, they say, oh, my non-binary kid. And I'm like, you're not an ally. Like, you're on the front lines. Like what? You can't be a P flagger who's like, I'm just an ally, Yeah,
right.
So throughout the conference, when you're out in the halls and stuff, you're going to see all these little pops of rainbow. And what it means is that even though there are people who disagree with me based on like these values that I have of how I see the world, they're not going to be speaking loudly in public. And so the You Belong Ice Cream Social was designed to welcome people who wonder if they belong, and to create a space for those who want others to belong, and for people who felt both those things and sometimes feel both those things in the same moment. Nice. And we fundraise to cover the cost of catering, which has gotten more and more and more expensive. So we raised about $9,000 to cover ice cream and some sweet treats. And we ran out of food because about 200 of the 750 people at the conference came to the ice cream social. So I'm a big tent shared values organizer. I don't like to just organize around shared identity. So socializing for justice was not based on identity or issue. It was about the shared progressive values. And similarly, creating this space has been so cool. I didn't get to go this year. It actually overlapped with a family vacation in Provincetown. I was there for Family Week, which was wonderful.
Nice.
I went to this conference for 10 years, and now the next 10, if they overlap, my allegiance is to the family vacation because of the age of my kids.
Yeah.
So in my absence, though, other members of our community have stepped up to run this and to do the fundraising. And I got a shout out while they were doing the announcements. And they basically said, Robbie's on vacation, family first, but go bother him and tell him, you're thinking of him. And like my phone blew up on Sunday of that conference, and people were sending me videos and photos and telling me how great it was. So I'm thrilled because I heard from the executive director that a straight white 30-something-year-old guy, cisgender guy, said to her that he saw a year ago that this event was going to be happening at the conference, and it was one of his deciding factors was that he wanted to spend time in a space where that kind of event happened.
That's so cool.
And that, to me, that's awesome. Like, I love that. And the fact that he went and told her this at the conference, he said, one of the reasons I'm here is because this event's happening. And they walk a fine line because they're an apolitical, nonpartisan association. So they can't do these things on their own, but they love the fact that they're making it as easy as they can for us to do it.
Yeah.
Building it into the schedule. And I will say there was a time where LGBT and rainbow speakers wasn't on the agenda. They unironically did a performance of YMCA on the stage one year, like 10 years ago.
Oh my goodness.
And I was just like, is anyone else seeing this? Yeah, I mean, they used to do a prayer. They used to, have American flags all over the place. None of that's happening in the broad daylight, right?
Yeah.
So I think culture shifts. Take sometimes a decade or more to really see some effort turn into action. But I feel really good about my contributions there, and that we've created a big tent because I want these, particularly parents and family members of LGBTQ plus people, to feel like they're part of this, because there's way more of us collectively in any space than there are people who would deny me my rights. So
yes.
I just need,
Go ahead. Sorry.
I just want them to feel a place to be visible about it. I think they feel like they don't know how to be visible about it. Like, what's the right way to do that? And so them showing up to get a bowl of ice cream, which ran out, right? But it didn't matter. They kept flooding in.
Yeah.
So is it really about the ice cream? Not really.
No.
I mean, I want to make sure we have enough food, but they were coming in because they wanted to be with other people who had that shared value. Yeah,
like-minded people. And I love that concept of the bigger tent, because, if things are going to change, a smaller, group of marginalized people are not going to be able to make that change by themselves. It's just not going to happen that way. So that's nice. I love that.
Well, I mean, I'm very clear about who I am and my values. And I mean, when Trump was running for office, I think the second time, I sent an email that said, you're not going to like this, was the subject line or something like that. And I basically told people that, maybe the first time you didn't know, but now you do. So now you're voting for Trump. The unsubscribe link is below. Yeah. And I'm going to get a lot of flack for this. So if you agree with me, I would love you to hit reply to send me some love. Yeah. And I got so much love. Aww. So much love. And I had one guy, older guy, who was just like, but why? I mean, I respect you. I like learning from you. Like, why can't, we be friends? Like, I'm like, oh, you don't get it. Like, there's so much privilege wrapped up in that question. Yeah. It's just, I was like, no. Like, I don't want you to buy from me. Yeah. I don't want your money. So
yeah,
as gently as possible, I let him down on that because he thought there was nothing wrong. He was like, but wait.
Yeah.
I think it's important that we attract people, but that means we're going to repel some people, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah. It happens. But I think you will attract more than you will repel.
Yeah, and you have a better time. I mean, I love the people I spend time with. A year ago, maybe 2 years ago, I had an event that happened to be the first Friday of June, and I mentioned as we were coming into the call, it's a public event. Hey, oh wow, it's June, and I said, oh, I threw up the Zoom, the little filter, the rainbow frame, and I saw some people nodding, and a second later, 2 more people put up the frame.
Aww.
And then other people put up the frame. And we had like 20 people in the room. And people started asking in chat, how do you do that? Or can I do that if I'm an ally? And so I stopped to like explain to people, A, anyone can do this, and B, how to do it, because they didn't know how.
Yeah.
And I ended up taking a screenshot. And it was like, I don't know, like 12 people immediately out of like 20 immediately turned on that filter.
That's wonderful.
And it's not an LGBT room,
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's very cool. Yeah. That's very telling, like really where folks are at, and yeah, don't get me started. I don't want to go down that road. But, especially what's happening right now with the cases possibly being brought to the Supreme Court. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but anyway. So speaking of, being a member of the LGBTQ plus community, it sounds like that had some influence on your work, but not, it wasn't all about that.
Right. It's interesting. I had a opportunity to speaking in college. I did some safer sex programming that I created with my then partner. We had a website, twodykes.com. I haven't talked about that on any podcast ever, but this seems like the appropriate one to say it. We did programming. I also organized a speakers bureau to go and train RAs at different colleges in our area about LGBT issues. So this is like, I'm in my early 20s, 19, 20, 21, 22. And then there was this gap where I didn't speak, and I finally got back to it, 15 or so years ago. I'm 50 now. So there was quite a gap. And now occasionally people will reach out and be like, oh, can you come and do a talk about, being trans or something? I'm like, I don't have a talk about that, but I can refer you to people who do, like who's built an entire business doing that. Like I know several that are awesome that come into organizations and teach you how to do that. But my work has more been about being really visible and openly trans. In fact, when I identify who I am, I actually always put the word openly in front of the word trans. I identify as an openly queer trans dad, usually is what I'm talking about, because I'm a dad. And so that I want that because it's not a secret. And if you're surprised by the news, and it just means no one thought to tell you, which means it's not actually a big deal.
Exactly. Exactly.
You're like, it's like, oh, it's just another point of information.
Yep.
But I have had some lovely moments where people have reached out to maybe parents who've reached out to talk to me about their kids or want their kid to see someone who's successful out in the world. And I think that my first talk was about networking. And it was a low key, program around diversity, inclusion, and microaggressions. But I didn't use those words ever, not once. What I really was saying was, if you're going to bother to leave the house, here's how to effectively connect with other people and convey a message. And if the first thing out of your mouth is to call something out that's different, like, wow, you're really tall. How tall are you? Which is the most innocuous example that I have. It's not going to make people want to talk to you.
No.
And so I addressed all kinds of difference, but not specifically and only LGBT difference, right? It was just about how do we create more welcoming spaces has been a through line. And I think that is based on my experience back when I was a camper, where I connected with with the adults in the camp, and not as much with my peers. Like I don't have as many connections or memories of that. And I have one moment where I remember walking over to a group and like the group didn't create space for me. And I have figured out that is sort of an origin of why my first talk had this whole section on it about croissants versus bagels, which is also my TEDx talk. And NPR interviewed me about this. So bagels are those tight clusters where people don't let you in. They're all shoulder to shoulder in a big huddle. And the croissant is if one person in the circle shifts their body language to make space. So you either have a U shape or a circle. And I mean, that's about wanting to feel like you fit in. And a lot of reasons I host things is because if I'm hosting it, I'll fit in and I'll help other people fit in. So I think that my own, feelings about being other has led me to compensate in this particular way. Yeah. I'm very fortunate because people compensate with drugs and alcohol and other dangerous things, and I have poured myself into community organizing.
Yeah, it's wonderful. It really is. You have really, I think, taken, I guess, life's experiences and knowledge and really kind of morphed it into this success story that also like helps other folks be successful, and it's so wonderful. I just wish everyone would do that.
I appreciate the opportunity to talk about it. I feel like it's a part of the backstory that doesn't get always a lot of light. You're busy talking about whatever else is on the docket, but I think we all bring ourselves to the work that we do, and this is why you can have 2 or 3 people selling theoretically the same service, but they're not, because they're all individuals. They come to that work with a particular history, and so that's mine. And so I think it also, I tend to work with entrepreneurial women who are in their 50s and beyond, looking to grow their impact and income through some kind of new revenue stream. And I always say parenthetically, and a few good men. The kind of guys I work with hang out in a room full of women very easily, as I do. And the women like the way I talk about the work that I do, right? So it's interesting how all this history informs, what we're doing.
It really does. And it's great that you're using that to your advantage and to help others.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, Robbie, that is about all the time we have for today. I'm wondering if you have any parting words for our listeners.
Well, earlier I said that there was this moment in 2020 where I had to figure out how to show up and offer value, and that became my mantra. So I'm going to share that as a parting words. Show up and offer value. Just figure that out. Wherever you go, figure out how to show up and offer value, and that will look different in different situations and scenarios. You always have something to offer, even just showing up. Like for me, I choose often to go to the smaller Pride event instead of the big city one because my body counts bigger in those small spaces where there's not that many of us. Like that's an opportunity to show up and offer value by just being present. And then there's more from there. So just thinking about, how you can walk in a room offering as opposed to thinking, oh, I need this, I need that. It just changes your outlook. I think it'll change how people approach you and how you approach these events.
Yeah. No, that's great. That is, I love that. I love that. Show up and offer value. So, thank you so much for Robbie for being with us. And listeners, again, RobbieSamuels.com is a website you can go to and check out all of his resources, everything that he's talking about today. You can check out there on RobbieSamuels.com. So, Robbie, thanks again for being on the show today. It has been a pleasure talking with you. And again, that's all the time we have. I'm Anita Kelly, and thanks for joining Let's Talk About Books, baby. So until next time, may your journey be lighthearted, peace be plenty, and be safe, folks.